Hey y'all, what's up? I'm back bringing you another update on the tropics today. I'm going to be doing a less edited version of my typical video style here so I can get this information out to you as quick as possible. Right now we have a tropical area of low pressure down near Haiti, and this is expected to be headed into the Florida region over the next 4 or 5 days or so. And from there, we don't really know what's going to happen. I'm going to go over in this video what I think is going to happen, as well as what the strength of this storm may or may not be. It may be really strong, or it may be pretty weak, and why this is going to be a problem regardless of whether or not it's strong or weak. So this is dubbed Invest Area 97L right now. It's got a 70% chance of formation somewhere within this red box, currently located where that X is. And I want to go over what it looks like right now first. So as I play this loop, this is currently what the satellite looks like. I'm recording this at 8 p.m. on Thursday. It should go up in about a day. So things are going to change. Keep that in mind. But this is the information that I have right now, and I'm getting this out to you. So right now you can see just a mass of blobular convection. It's very disorganized right now. But something that I'm really closely watching for is where this convection concentrates. Now, earlier this morning, we had a lot of it on the northern side. And then this afternoon, we got a lot more convection centered down south near Haiti. Now, this is ultimately extremely important for the future, because if this ends up tracking further to the south and forms further south on this whole wave envelope, is extremely important for the future. This is just the visible satellite loop for today, showing not really any concentrated area of spin. You have maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit up in here, a little bit of cyclonic spin. Again, that's counterclockwise spin, and there was a little bit down here. So really a disorganized wave, but which of these two pieces takes over is going to be extremely important for the future. Just to give you one more look, this is kind of what the wind profile looks like right now at the surface. And again, you could see that you've got this stronger belt of winds right here. So that's kind of your wave axis right in there, right over Hispaniola. And down to the south, winds are weaker, but they're not coming out of the opposite direction. We don't have any spin here, but we do, we have a little bit of convergence, just overall bad weather conditions down here. And that is our wave envelope, represented by this vorticity map right now. This is kind of what your spin in the atmosphere looks like. Just to give you an idea of what I'm looking for out of this kind of map, this over here is a hurricane, or soon to be a hurricane right now. This is a tropical storm, upper end, almost a hurricane. And this is what our system looks like. Clearly, this is obviously, you've got these reds and whites up here. So there's more spin going on here. And this is also a little bit stretched out east to west. So it's expected to move in this direction. And once it gets past Cuba, we may start to see some development. And I'll go over that here. Here's what some of the ensemble members are showing. This is the European ensemble. I'm going to just push this forward. You can see that they initialized this, right here over the Dominican Republic. And that is kind of where it is. If it were to consolidate up here, you'd shift all of these models to the north. If it was further down here, which I don't think it is, you would shift these models further to the south. This is how many different solutions there can be. And you can see most of these tracks are headed up into Florida. Now, according to the European ensemble, we've got most of these tracks going to the west side of Florida. But then, this is very interesting, all of these lows in here, right? They kind of stop. Some of them shoot off to the north. You can see that right up here. But a lot of these just kind of stop or even meander down south further back to the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, I'm going over to 10 days out here, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen 10 days out. We don't even know what's going to happen 5 days out right now. But you could see a good number of these models are still here at 10 days out, showing that low pressure system, all of that rising motion, all of that rain right over the southeastern U.S. And this is echoed in the American ensemble forecast. You could see that kind of same thing here. You got kind of a halfway split. You've got some of these headed up to the northeast that kind of rocket off pretty quickly. Those would be probably the best case scenario. And then some of these members just kind of meander around Florida and probably dump a lot of rain And that is the key here. The strength is uncertain, but the main thing that we know is going to happen is rain. And there could be a lot of rain out here. So I just want to summarize that in this, which is kind of combining those two ensemble members, the European and the American model. And this is kind of a general track density where this storm could go. And you could see the averages in here and kind of moves up towards the Carolinas by the end of the period. But we really don't know if that's going to happen. It could do this. You could see the spread out here as we get toward the end. This really light shade here is unbelievably large, anywhere from way out here in the Atlantic all the way over into the central Gulf of Mexico. And so one other thing I want to show here is this is an ensemble model confidence product, and you could see that through 84 hours or so we've got moderate confidence, but then after that it's low. And I think this undervalues how low it is. It is extremely low confidence when you get past 84 hours or so, which is about 3.5 days. And we really don't know where this is going to be. But I'm going to show you some reasons as to why uncertainty is so high right now and where I think it's most likely to go. So this is the current steering pattern. This is off of the American model. I'm going to show you the American and the European model. This is up at where the planes fly, and this is kind of what guides these hurricanes along. So as I push it forward, this is starting on Saturday, going into Sunday, and on this particular model run, this is the latest run of the American model. The storm is right here. It's taken into Florida earlier than some of its previous models. As you can see this blue area here. If I go back, the previous run, it was further out to sea, and then back even more, again, further out. In this case, a couple of runs ago, just last night, it was way down here, and that's going to make a pretty big difference in the future, and there's a reason why this is changing like this. But if I go back to the current run, this comes into Florida on a Sunday morning, and then because it does so early, it doesn't really have much time to strengthen, and eventually kind of gets lifted off. It moves rather slowly. We've got 3 dominant steering patterns. We've got this huge ridge over here. This is a 594. This is a big ridge, and we've got another one out here. And so you've got flow coming around this ridge to the south from the north, and then on this side, it's the complete opposite of that. You've got flow coming from the south to the north. And those are two obviously conflicting forces that are acting on the storm. In addition, you've got this area up here. There's some troughing up here. This is going to be what's going to try to carry this storm northward. But as I play this forward, watch this area of blues up here. That kind of gets kicked out of the way. It's in the northeast and it's moving out. And our storm's still located off the coast of South Carolina. And what happens in the case of this model run is you get this huge ridge from the Atlantic to kind of build overhead while this one is still in place. That 594 kind of shifted a little bit to the east. And once again, you've got this conflicting flow. So when it's right here, it just completely stalls. It doesn't move for a solid 2 days. And that can happen. That is a very real possibility with this storm. It can happen here. It can happen over Florida. It could happen over Alabama. It could happen over the Gulf of Mexico. We really don't know where it will stall. The chances of it stalling are pretty high, but there is a chance, again, that it doesn't stall at all, and that would be a good case scenario for us. But right now, I do think that it probably will slow down at the very least at some point off the coast here. This is actually echoed in the European model. As I push this forward, we're going into Saturday. And then it's harder to see here, but our low is right in here. You can kind of see it right there. That little closed contour right over Florida. This is going to be now on Sunday night into Monday. And you can see, again, those two competing steering flows. You've got southerly flow up here that's pushing down on the storm. And then you've also got this flow here that's kind of trying to push it north. Now, on this run, it is closer to this ridge than it is to this one. So, as a result, this gets kicked off, again, towards the Carolinas, over the Gulf Stream. You can see that right there. Now, it's located over here. It moves very slowly, so it's going to be dumping a lot of rain during this time. But, again, you get that ridging building overhead. These warmer colors here, that shows higher pressure building to the north of it. That's going to prevent it from going up to the north. And that is a problem. That split I was mentioning is echoed pretty well in the American model ensemble forecast here. This is showing all the different members and where their tracks are. You can see half of them are over here, half of them shoot it off to the northeast. So that is the current track forecast. We really don't know where it's going to go, but we do at least know it is going to make it probably into the Gulf of Mexico. And this had changed from a few days ago where all the models had it shooting off to the north and east away from the US. Getting into that discussion of what this storm might do, this is the ocean heat content product. This shows just how deep the warm water that this storm can take advantage of is. And you can see in here, we've got values, anything literally over the blues is going to be conducive for hurricanes. We've got values in the greens. Even here, this is what's called the loop current. This has got reds. This is an area that is generally always warm. And if this happens to track just far enough west, it'll go right over that. And historically in the past, this has been rocket fuel for hurricanes if they have a good atmospheric environment to take advantage of. And we'll go over that environment in a second here for 97L. But even if it tracks closer to Florida here, we've got extremely warm shelf waters. We've got, this 31 Celsius. This is upper 80s Fahrenheit. And that is basically bathtub water. So, assuming a track through Cuba, kind of like that, and then into Florida. This is going to go through some of the warmest water in the Atlantic Ocean here. This bathtub water is also going to act like rocket fuel for a storm like this. But no storm can really truly take advantage of that unless it has a good atmospheric environment. Now, this is the American model showing the upper level winds. And these colors here, the blues and especially the greens and reds up here, that's going to be unfavorable shear. When we're seeing no color in here, that's very light winds. It's going to be assisting in the storm being able to produce its own outflow, kind of breathe out, So this particular model, I brought it back to this morning's run to show what is definitely, in my opinion, a possible solution. So you could see the L located right here. That's going to be our invest. Potentially, if it gets there and it looks like that at that point, it'll be a tropical storm. Tropical storm Debby is next on the list. And you could see as it moves through here, it's got actually a very favorable environment. Very light winds a lot. You've got this kind of jet extending away. That's going to help get air away from the storm and help assist in rising motion where the storm is. And you've got this anticyclonic flow right above the storm. And that is also going to help in aiding air moving away from the core of the storm. And that is very light shear. We've got very light shear out here. This is the area average sounding for where that invest is probably going to be off of the American model again. And I want you to look at two specific things on this chart. This value right over here, max shear, 13 knots. Anything over 15 is quite a bit. And then this map up in here, the relative humidity map. As I move this along, you see we've got 13 knots max shear. It's a decent amount of shear. But as I move this into the Gulf of Mexico, boom, we're down to 8 knots. That is conducive shear to get a storm going, especially because a lot of this is located more in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So that, in addition to this RH number here, the relative humidity located in this chart, you can see all of these greens in here. That's not very dry air. And as this moves along, on this particular model run, that dry air pretty much stays out. Only by the end do you kind of see an appearance of it here near Alabama. But all of this moisture is going to contribute to a lot of rain. And I'll get to those rainfall totals here in just a second. But here's what I'm watching for going forward and why where it consolidates now is most important for the future. So as I push this forward, this is the American model. 30 hours from now, this is going to be Friday night. And this is going to be the low level spin, these colors in here. And then these contours are going to be the mid-level height field, which is kind of where your vortex is in the mid-levels. And you can see right here, they're very stacked. This spin is pretty close to the center of that contour there. And the wave envelope and the low pressure at the surface are stacked. So you will get some sort of consolidation rather quickly. So watch as I play this forward as we go into Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You can see how a stronger system would look on this map. We've got, these brighter colors here, and that 500 is very much overlapped here. Now, if I play it back, this location, the location of where these colors are, where that spin is, when it gets past Cuba into the Florida Straits is extremely important for the future intensity and for the future track of the storm. Because if we have a very broad and diffuse vortex here, and I believe this is shown pretty well in the European model. Yeah, you could see those colors are really not as, we don't have those reds, those pinks. This is a system that's going to take a lot longer to spin up and intensify over the Gulf of Mexico, even in good conditions. Now, on the GFS, on the other hand, the GFS has a much tighter area and it's also very much co-located with that mid-level center, and that is going to promote strengthening pretty quickly in the short term once it reaches this location. Where along the Cuba coastline it exits, as well as how it looks, how tight that vortex is going to be extremely important to see not only where, because if it ends up further to the west on the Cuban coastline, it'll track further out into the Gulf, but if it ends up right here, it'll have less time over water, which means it will probably not really intensify at all, especially if it's very broad. Now, that being said, if it's broad or if it's tight, and really if it's a hurricane or if it's a tropical storm or if it's even just a wave like we have right now, it's going to bring a lot of rain. I personally think that we could see this southern portion consolidate, take the southernmost track, stay to the west, and then potentially strengthen into a hurricane over the Gulf of Mexico here. But I cannot rule out the possibility, and it's very much really a 50-50 possibility that it kind of stays weak, kind of ends up further to the east as it passes Cuba. And then in that case, it will actually probably bring more rain to Florida, especially the Miami area up the eastern coast of Florida. There is still also the possibility that this kind of takes a route further over in the western Gulf of Mexico, or the central Gulf of Mexico, really. I could pretty much rule out the threat to Texas here. But the New Orleans side of Louisiana coast, as well as Mississippi, Alabama, western Florida panhandle, these areas can't be ruled out for some sort of landfall either. Anywhere from about here, New Orleans, up and down Florida, all the way up to the Outer Banks, possibility for landfall, we really don't know. And if it makes it over here, I think it's even more likely to be stronger when it gets to that point. So in that case, you'd have rain, you'd have wind impacts, and you probably have some decent surge impact. But for now, rain is the main impact here. And we've got, 10 inches here in this yellow color and 7 to 10 in these browns. And I think there's a good chance that we could be seeing 15 to 20 or even more inches of rain if this does stall out over land here, which is definitely a real possibility. So you could see these numbers get bumped up. There is also probably a good chance that some of the Carolina rainfall here is going to be very uncertain with potentially lower values than reality here. So with these rains, of course, it is a good thing here that we've got a state of emergency in place for these counties in Florida. Pause the video if you want to see if your county is in this state of emergency, and we need to prepare for Invest 97L. So for now, that's all I really have. Thank you for watching. I just wanted to get this quick update out there for you all so you know kind of what's going on. And I don't believe I can do another update on this storm. I am going away this weekend, so stay safe, everyone here in Florida, and comment down below if you live in any of these counties and what you're doing to prepare for this potential hurricane that we have out here. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Take care.